now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on beautiful St. Simon's Island in Georgia. An island that I would bet right now does not have 2 feet of snow out their window like I do here in Lake George. You can find out all about Sal's Neighborhood Restaurant and Pizzeria by visiting his website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. We'll give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal, which I should go pretty soon. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux from Bondage, The Baddest Man on the Planet is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. And finally, today's show is being brought to us by our new 24-hour, 7-day-a-week television channel. Check out all the information. You can watch it on your favorite streaming device. I know Roku has it, and, well, a whole bunch of stuff. Just visit Giniko, Giniko, USA.com for all the information, how you can watch it. Sign up for an account. It's free, and enjoy the stuff that's on there. A lot of positive comments we're getting on the new network. So, anyway, Manny Pacquiao against Adrien Broner last night. It's our post-fight show. We want to talk about that and some other big news that's in the sport of boxing. But let's kick it off with the Pacquiao fight. I'm going to just say this. I scored that fight 118-110. I gave 2 rounds to Adrien Broner, the 4th and the 10th. Manny Pacquiao put on a great performance. Here's my initial thoughts. My initial thoughts are, if Manny Pacquiao fought Floyd Mayweather in a rematch this year, and Manny Pacquiao was able to fight with the same game plan that he fought last night, Pacquiao wins the fight, and I'll tell you why. The aggression that he was using, just the simple fact that he was moving in and throwing punches, something that he didn't do as much in the first Mayweather fight, would have given him the win. Adrien Broner sat there just like I thought he would and tried to counterpunch Manny Pacquiao all night long. And with the angles and the hand speed that Manny Pacquiao displayed, he would be a tough out for somebody that wouldn't be aggressive against him. The only way that I think you can beat Manny Pacquiao, even a 40-year-old version of him, is to be aggressive, throwing punches, letting your hands go, stop him in his tracks, get him to think twice. And it was the other way around last night. Joining me to get his thoughts is my man, Sal Rocky Senecola. Your thoughts, please, sir.
Good morning, Billy C. My thoughts. Well, first I'm going to have a sip of coffee out of my Billy C mug that was created years ago. All right, now I have my thoughts in order. Let me tell you something. I said here on your show, I thought that Broner would win. I said here on your show many times that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather could fight 100 times and Floyd would win 95 times of that matchup. But I agree with you. The Manny Pacquiao we saw last night, who was aggressive, who was coming in and throwing caution to the wind, just being the aggressor, landing a swarm of punches, missing several, but you throw 5 or 6 punches, you're going to catch him with one, and that's what he did last night all night long. He was in great shape, especially for a 40-year-old. He was a punching machine, and he was not derailed. He fought his fight, and I was very impressed with Manny, and I agree with you that I think If that was the version, that's the version of Manny Pacquiao I expected to see in the first Mayweather fight, and not that there has been two yet, but believe me, that's going to be festering and cultivated, and we're going to see a Mayweather Pacquiao fight.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's too much money to be made and whatever. And make no mistake, both Floyd and Manny are not the same Floyd and Manny of even
No.
3 or 4 years ago when they fought each other. So, but it is a fight, and all of the Floyd fans will pay for it just in hopes that he wins again, and all the Pacquiao fans will pay for it because they want to see their guy go out with a win against Mayweather. But the fight against Broner, I really could only find 2 rounds to give to Broner. I'm not so sure about the judges' scores. The way the 3 judges scored it, 116, 112 twice, and one judge had it 117, 111. Like I said earlier, I scored it 118, 110, giving Broner the 4th and 10th rounds. There was also another round which I thought was extremely close, round 8. But here's the thing: if you're going to counterpunch, and I'm not so sure that Adrien Broner's game plan of trying to stay in the pocket and counterpunch Manny and hope he makes a mistake, I'm not so sure that was the wrong plan, Sal. What I think, but here's where I think it went awry for Adrien Broner. He didn't throw enough punches. I mean, if you're going to counterpunch, you got to be offensive minded. That was the hang up. And for him to say at the end, I know before we went on air, you were starting a little rant about Adrien Broner not, just saying he was the better man tonight. And then when he had the nerve to say, everybody knows it and all the fans are booing and stuff. I mean, come on. Even his own corner was pleading with him, telling him that, we need to win these rounds, so I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure where Adrien Broner's mindset is, unless he's just trying to do what Adrien Broner does and be in the discussion for another opportunity down the road.
Well, it very well could be, because, a lot of these fighters today, we don't have the Don Kings and the Bob Arum pushing their fighters the way that they used to 20, 30 years ago with the current promotions and promoters out there. So sometimes these guys have to promote themselves and just keep themselves in the news. So maybe that was one of the reasons why. But I was on the same page, Bill. I saw the opportunities that Broner, and I thought he would. That's why I picked him to win. I thought you would see a collision with the way Manny was swarming and coming in. And he was lunging quite a bit, or he was just coming in, throwing punches and bunches. Then I thought Broner would have taken that nice step back and would have turned over a beautiful right hand, catching him square as he was coming in, or even a left hook over the top. So, when you don't throw punches in a fight, there's less of a chance of that ever happening. And that was his downfall. He wasn't busy enough, and that's it. He should have been busier.
I think this fight also showed you the greatness of Manny Pacquiao. And what I mean by that is his hand speed really shocked Adrien Broner. I don't think that this guy was ready. Now, Adrien Broner's pretty quick, too. And if you watch the fight, you'll see Manny, throw a punch, and the punch is already on its way back. So you snap out a punch, and your hand is already on the way back. And Broner was, sort of like trying to catch up with it. So his punches kept falling short. And the other thing I noticed that was really good on Manny's part was his head movement. He had head movement last night that, it's a throwback. It's just the way fighters should be, and a lot of them don't do it. And one other thing, I think we should call, he's got the version of his calves like Popeye's got forearms. I mean, those calves look like somebody. They look like a Photoshop. Like they put it on somebody else's body. I mean, they were deformed. They were so big. When I saw them and when he stepped in the ring, I was just like, look at these. Maybe he's got all the power back. He did not seem to have the power that he used to. But then again, in Broner's defense, he's got a solid chin.
Yeah, he does have a solid chin. I'll tell you that. He really does, because he got caught with some big shots. And But I saw those calves, and I said, "Wow, I don't remember them being that big." This guy must have been hiking mountains or something. I don't know what.
There's a commercial. There's a
Yes,
commercial out.
yes,
Yeah. The guy with the bike, and he's going, I call my own shots. I make my own bicycle. I make my own calves, and his calves are like, they look like almost like Manny size. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the Manny Pacquiao, Adrien Broner fight on today's show. But let's get some other stuff out of the way real quick. I want to get your thoughts on the Marcus Browne, who improved to 23-0. By the way, Adrien Broner drops to 33 wins, 4 losses, and 24 of his wins coming by knockout. As far as Manny Pacquiao goes, he improves to 61 wins, 7 losses, and a couple of draws with 39 knockouts. Marcus Browne improved to 23-0 with 16 knockouts, winning the interim light heavyweight title for the WBA with his win over Badou Jack. The way the judges scored it: 116, 111, 117, 110, 119, 108. I was wrong on this one. I picked Pacquiao to win the fight against Broner exactly how he did it, via a decision, going the distance. This fight I was wrong. I picked Badou Jack, and Jack didn't get started in this fight.
Never got
He he tried to come on midway through. By then it was too far gone for him. Marcus Browne had the right game plan. That cut was gruesome. And the one thing I will say about Marcus Browne as he moves forward, he seemed to slap his punches, Sal. And when fighters do that, I wonder why a trainer doesn't try to correct it. Marcus Browne, if he would have thrown his punches and landed his punches straight, I don't know if Badou Jack could have hung in there. I mean, he's obviously a game fighter. I really criticized the doctor, the ringside physician, and his own corner for letting that fight continue. True, the cut wasn't over his eyes. It was right down the center of his head. But when you're bleeding that much, Sal, you start putting yourself in danger. There was no reason to let that fight go on. Badou Jack isn't known for being a knockout puncher. I really question the decisions on that one.
Well, it is, the ringside physician. It's his call, and the referee did point it out several times to the ringside physician. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't like he had a concussion that we know of at the time with the head collision. But, hey, I remember one of my fights with Don Turner as in my corner when I was down south. I took 140 stitches with 4 cuts, and this cut right here, above my eye right here, took 43 stitches. It was a raw steak, and I begged the doctor to let it go on. They didn't want to stop it, and but those were the days where they could put collodium in there and adrenaline, which they still could, and everything else, and they had to chisel it out, but it was bleeding profusely all throughout the fight. It happened in the later rounds. So and we filled up 2 towels worth of blood, but I begged them to let it continue, and they did. And so a cut is a cut. Yeah, the blood is gruesome, and yes, it looks like a raw steak, and it could have been. It was monitored, it was pointed out, and the ringside physician, for whatever reason, he didn't think it was that grave. Although they did scoot him away real fast, he didn't wait for the decision once the fight was over. He went right to the hospital. So, that's a hard call. And you know what? I think Badou Jack, if he is that kind of warrior, he'd want the opportunity to continue as well. So maybe he also had something to say in it. Who knows?
The other fight that was on the other 2 fights on the pay-per-view, in what I think was really the most entertaining fight of the night. And it was actually a rematch, not in the pro ranks, but once these 2 guys fought in the Olympics, and then they fought again last night. Nordine Ouboulai improved to 15-0 with 11 knockouts when he won the vacant WBC bantamweight title with a 12-round unanimous decision over Rau'shee Warren, who drops the third fight of his career. He's 16-3, 115, 113, 116, 112, 117, 111 with the way the three judges scored it for Abulai. This fight was extremely entertaining to me. Rau'shee Warren is a talented fighter. This guy's lightning quick. He's accurate with his punches. He's got great footwork. He's not afraid to mix it up. But he was in there with a guy that did all the same things. He wasn't as fast, but he was throwing a lot of punches, and he had more power. He was in great shape. The decision was correct, and that's the way you accept a defeat, the way Rau'shee Warren did. I thought he accepted his loss like a man, made no excuses, thought that Abulai was the better man that night. I have a feeling these two guys' paths are going to cross for a third time down the road. It's not over for Warren, but Abulai is a guy that we can really keep an eye on. I think you can make an argument that, he's one of the top guys of that division. What's your thoughts?
Yes. I think along the same line there, Bill, and you're right. We definitely got to keep our eyes on him. And, definitely, why not? These guys put on a fight, but Abulai definitely looks like somebody that we got to continue to follow.
The other fight that was on the card that opened up the broadcast was a fight that, this is when I started reaching for the bottle of scotch because I needed to try to stay awake. I mean, Hugo Ruiz, what's funny about this cat is that he's exciting for the first 3 rounds. Then he goes into he goes into what we saw. Now, with all due respect, Alberto Guerrero was a last-minute sub. The interim WBA featherweight champ, Jack Tapora, was almost 6 pounds, well over 5.5 pounds overweight for this fight. He was not able to fight. I know that burns the hell out of you, Sal, and it does me too. The funny thing is they had this Alberto Guerrero, waiting in the wings just in case. When you have a fighter like that waiting as a potential last-minute sub, all powers that are involved knew something might have happened. But nonetheless, Hugo Ruiz won a unanimous decision. He improved to 38-4 with 31 knockouts, 99-90 twice, and 189 with the way the judges scored it. Ruiz dropped Guevara in the very first round. I thought the fight would be over quickly. Nay. Guevara stayed in that fight for the rest, and Hugo Ruiz just seemed content on winning a decision. Any thoughts on that one?
I was unable to see that fight, and I'd like to go back and see that today.
Nah, don't bother. Lucky you, not having to watch that. Before we continue on with Pacquiao and Broner and what goes on from here. We are going to be getting Dax Kahn and Alex Pahlavi joining us later. Some other fights that took place this past weekend, Friday night, in a couple of upsets, big upsets as a matter of fact. Bryant Jennings, a guy who was in the discussion in the heavyweights. I mean, he's a small heavyweight, but he was talented. I'm telling you, this guy was not the same fighter ever since his devastating knockout loss to Luis Ortiz. He was put in with a young undefeated fighter in Oscar Rivas. Kaboom, Rivas. And, I thought this fight was going to be Bryant Jennings all the way. The reason is because they were both similar in size, and Jennings is usually fighting guys that are much bigger than him. But Oscar Rivas won the fight. He put Jennings in some serious trouble in the 12th and final round, and the fight was waved off. It was a tactical fight. The problem is that Jennings was pulling an Adrien Broner. He was trying to block all the punches coming to him from Oscar Rivas, but he wasn't throwing enough back. I don't understand why fighters do this, Sal, where they get into this, I'm going to counterpunch him. They may see it on film or something like that, seeing a weakness, but then they get stuck in a rut. And the big negative is if you're not throwing enough punches, that means you're headhunting. You're looking for that one knockout punch. And any fighter that goes into a fight, even if you're a destroyer with punching power, you should not be looking at for the one knockout punch. I'm sorry. You need to build it up, break your opponent down, and win. Your thoughts, please, sir.
Exactly. And that was what I really thought that Broner was going to try and do last night. Not that you throw that one counter punch and you wait for the next opportunity. That counter punch that you are waiting for and that you see the opening, then you can execute and deliver properly, is what opens up the gates for you to finish up with a flurry of punches to get in there. Not just one counter punch, but that counter punch being effective enough so you can continue with a combination and continue punching, and then you turn the fight around. That's how a counter punch wins. A good counter puncher exposes his fighter and wins a fight. You got to throw punches and bunches, or at least be effective with follow-ups. That one counter punch, unless you got that devastating power, which some fighters do, and it is the punch that's going to open up the gateways for you to deliver a follow-up with a combination. And that's what really is effective. So effective counterpunching is looking for that shot, yes, that's going to open up the floodgates for you to continue and come forward and throw punches and bunches and hurt your opponent.
Another huge upset in the sport of boxing, at least on paper, because this guy, Pablo Cesar Cano, improved to 32 wins, 7 losses, and a draw with 22 knockouts when he destroyed former world champion Jorge Linares in the first round, 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Linares, a quality fighter. But when you look at Linares, who drops to 45-5, most of his losses all came early in the fight. He is a fighter that you need to jump on to take out, and he does wear down. He always looks like he's in great shape. But here's my thoughts. Pablo Cesar Cano, a fan that might look at his record, and a lot of fans just look at records and say, oh, God, look, he's got 7 losses. He can't be that good. Wrong. If you look at who this guy fought, Pablo Cesar Cano has fought the best of the best. He was thrown in early in his career. He became a durable opponent, and unfortunately, that's what he's labeled. So he gets in these fights with these, top-level guys and comes up short. But truthfully, he's a talented fighter, and he's still young. I love Pablo Cesar Cano, and I'm glad he got the win. Nothing against Linares, because I don't have anything against Linares. But Linares has been in some battles, and he's been knocked out savagely several times. He should consider either going back down in weight or hanging it up. He's been around for a while. Great fight for Cano. Also, real quick, Demetrius Andrade, and you know what? We didn't give much coverage on this fight, and I'm not going to talk about it much either, because to me it wasn't a competitive fight. He too won via a 12-round stoppage over Artur Akhvarov, who drops to 19-3. Art McCanty Jr., nothing like his father, waved the fight off with 24 seconds to go. When Andrade unleashed a solid combination that put Akhvarov in some trouble, wasn't so severe that I believe McCanty Jr. should have stopped the fight, let the guy finish on his feet, 24 seconds. But that's just my opinion. Demetrius Andrade is the odd man out in the middleweight division, especially if he's going to fight guys like, and no disrespect, but guys like Akhvarov, Sal.
Yeah, I agree with you there too, Bill. And I'll tell you, I just want to rewind when you were mentioning earlier, if I can, when you mentioned Manny Pacquiao's record. How many losses? 6 or 7?
Manny Pacquiao?
Yeah.
Manny Pacquiao's got 7 now. 61 wins, 7 losses, and 2 draws.
All right. So the lesson here is Manny Pacquiao is such a great fighter, competitor, all-around athlete. And he has built a stellar performance and career that he's going to be in the memory and the Hall of Fames and the books for life and for past his life. But you know what? Look at this. He's got 7 losses today, and he fought everybody. Today, you have 7 losses, or so along your path, the people are going to forget about you or so. But those losses were against world class opponents, and But the thing is this: that's what I just want to use as the model of why I have so much respect for Manny Pacquiao. Is the fact that he didn't run away or dodge or worry about any one of the fights he went. He's a warrior. He fought who he could fight when it was made, and he let it all hang out. Win, lose, or draw, you always saw the best that Manny can give, and a heart of a warrior. And those 7 defeats, you think they're going to taint a stellar career with all the titles and all the performances and all the wars he's been in? I don't think it's going to affect anything, and that's what I'm trying to say. So if you're afraid to lose, you're afraid to win, and that's the lesson here. Manny was never afraid to lose because he wanted to win.
No, you're right. Listen, a lot of young fans today, and the networks and the promoters, all devalue a fighter once they get a loss or two, and it's wrong. The greatest fighter ever, Sugar Ray Robinson, had losses as well. That's why I blame Floyd Mayweather for a lot of the problems with the way the sport is looked upon today because he was so successful at marketing his O. And I got news for you. If Manny Pacquiao's career ended today, if he hung him up, and I'll even go a step further. Even, let's say they do have a rematch, and let's say you're right, Mayweather wins again. I'm still, when it's all said and done, and I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I think that Manny Pacquiao will end up finishing higher on an all-time great list than Floyd will. And the reason is what you just said, because of all the great fighters that he fought, and that he did lose and lifted himself back up. I mean, when I look at a fighter, I don't just look at the record. I look at who he fought, the significance of the fight, et cetera, and what impact he made on the sport of boxing. And when it gets to Hall of Famers, it has to be a positive impact. And, it is what it is. But listen, before we're going to be taking a break here in a minute, one other thing I want to talk about. I don't even know if you caught this, because
I can't even catch a cold, Bill.
The funny thing is,
I don't want one.
Normally, when stuff like this hits the news, and you catch it out of the corner of your eye flipping pizzas, you call me, you drop me an email, you say something. Canelo Alvarez.
Who?
Canelo Alvarez against Danny Jacobs is set for a unification. It will be taking place on May 4th, of course, the Cinco de Mayo weekend. It'll be on the DAZN network. Canelo says, I'm happy to announce my next fight during the festive weekend of Cinco de Mayo. I will unify my middleweight titles against Danny Jacobs, one of the two most important dates that belong to me. I have no doubt that I'll be victorious and that I'll be one step away from becoming the undisputed middleweight champ. And what better way to watch it than on DAZN? Danny Jacobs said, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for, the opportunity to achieve greatness inside the ring. I've always believed that I could beat Canelo, and on May 4th, I will get my chance to play it out. It's been nearly 4 years since Canelo had faced an American challenger. It's going to be a huge event where I believe I will cement myself as the best middleweight in the division. I love this fight, and I got news for you. Don't be surprised. Now, we got a lot of time to talk about it, break it down, and give our final predictions. But I'm telling y'all right now, don't be surprised if Danny Jacobs wins this fight. Danny Jacobs is a fighter that, I've had my ups and downs with him in terms of where I think he fits. I think he's come a long way. He learned from his loss, both his losses, I should say, and I just believe that this is a guy that is going to come through on May 4th. Time will tell, and maybe I'm just saying it with my heart, Sal, because I've lost a lot of respect for Canelo.
Well, I know you did, and so have I on so many levels. And I can't believe you just told me that. Our friend George down here, George, who's a big fight fan, he comes to all of our events, and his wife Terry. They were in a pizzeria on Saturday. Now I don't know when this was announced, but George said to me because we were talking about the Broner fight against Pacquiao, and he says, "So what do you think about our man Alvarez Canelo?" I said, "Well, I think it's a natural. I think he's going to get back in the ring for the third fight with Triple G, and he'll probably do it on the Cinco de Mayo weekend." Well, I guess I was wrong.
You gotta turn your computer on once in a while. You know what I mean, Sal? I mean,
I've been eating too much pizza, man. I'll tell you. Thank you for the input there. I got to thank George again. Maybe he was trying to open my eyes and say, "Sal, that's not going to happen, pal."
well, hey, it may happen. At some point.
Not Cinco de Mayo.
No, not this year. But a couple other things, real quick, before we take a break, and Sal gets to. Use the bathroom here, but the truth of the matter is the WBC has ordered negotiations for Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury too. We'll see what happens with that. They have modified it due to the draw. Normally, the WBC has a 70-30 split, champ getting 70, challenger getting 30, but they changed it to a 60-40 in favor of Wilder. So we'll see what happens with that. There's no agreement yet, but if this fight is not made between the two parties, it will go to an open purse bid, and then things might get interesting. Who knows what will take place, because Eddie Hearn has offered Tyson Fury a spot to fight Anthony Joshua on April 13th. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury would be a huge fight over in England, but Tyson Fury has already said that he wants a 50-50 split. So a lot of stuff. And now the negotiations between these three, Wilder, Fury, and of course AJ and Fury possibly, or even AJ Wilder. I mean, that's how the boxing world turns. I'd love to see something positive come out of that. I'm anticipating that we would see, and I wouldn't have a problem seeing Anthony Joshua against Fury in April, and then getting a okay to let the winner of that fight get Wilder. Who knows? But we'll wait and see. One other fight, it has been made official. Amir Khan against Terrence Crawford, taking place April 20th, will be on pay-per-view. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up, Sal. And, it's boxing has picked up in terms of matches, at least on paper, has picked up where it left off in 2018.
Well, what's so funny, Bill? You look back, you and I, with the show the last couple of years. I think starting in 2016, I think we said, hey, we're going to have a good year. Or look at this year that passed. It was a pretty good year. And we followed up with 2017. Look at this year that passed. It was a pretty good year. 2018 was a pretty good year. Well, I'll tell you what, 2019 is starting to shape up to be a pretty good year. So, the resurgence, or the boxing having its opportunities to be, the serious sport, the world-class sport that it's always been, is definitely going to have its opportunities to shine again this year. So I'm just grateful and glad that we see some of these fights being made.
Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. Sal, you go do what you got to do. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, Dax Kahn is scheduled to join us, so don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604. Listen to the...
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to The Billy C. Show. Hey, you want to watch and listen to The Billy C. Show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on whatever streaming device you happen to like? Well, check out our new television network, the Billy C. Boxing Channel on Ginico USA. All the information can be found www.GINIKO.USA.com. You can catch us now on Roku and tons of other streaming avenues, I guess. Just go to GinicoUSA.com and check it out. Find out how you can get us. You can sign up for a free account. And it's been doing pretty well. Joining us right now, I wonder how much snow you got, Dax. Dax Kahn, what's up, man?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. How about, what's the snow situation?
The snow has stopped. Now we're just getting ice.
Oh, wow. Well, ice. It's like, I think it's 4 below zero here. That's strange, man.
Well, the thing is, it's just raining so hard, and it's just turned to ice almost immediately. It's like building up in the power lines. You can actually see outside the street lights. It's hanging down like icicles, like, you see on the side of the building when you were a kid.
So if all of a sudden the screen goes black, I know what it is. I know you lost power. So anyway.
They lost power at the MGM Grand last night.
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
I didn't know. It wasn't during the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was during the pay-per-view, yeah.
Which fight?
I forget which fight it was. I have to think. It was during like one of the ring walks. All of a sudden the power went out. It was so WWE-like.
Really? Oh, yeah. Was that when that sound, when you heard that like zzz, zzz, during the song? Yes, Okay. I didn't even notice it. The generators were did their jobs. All right, let's get right into it. Manny Pacquiao against Adrien Broner. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, it pretty much played out how most of us expected. Once the punches started coming Broner's way, he wasn't able to, return fire, and that's always been Adrien Broner's biggest problem at that next level. I think the Paulie Malignaggi fight, as I stated the last time on our last show, that was the first inclination that, once, fighters are coming at Adrien Broner with volume, and we've seen the same thing with Marcos Maidana, we've seen the same thing with Sean Porter, we've seen the same thing with Mikey Garcia, and we've seen the same thing last night. Manny Pacquiao, looked like 30, not 40, once he won those early rounds, then he settled in, around the 5th round, 6th round. It looked as though Broner might change things around. But, then Pacquiao went after that body, which I think was more or less kind of designed. It might be like a new style because he's a 40-year-old guy. So, he has to come out strong, then settle a little bit. And then once after that, I think it was around the 7th round, from there out, he just abused Adrien Broner. Adrien Broner had to be in that corner thinking to himself at some point in time, how long is this Marcos Maidana fight going to last? Because that was a Marcos Maidana type beating.
I wonder what goes on in the mind of Adrien Broner, because, obviously he said that he thought he won the fight. I don't know if that was just a canned response or whatever, but no adjustments seem to be been made. Manny Pacquiao, they made a big deal about the 40-year-old, but he did come in shape, and he was aggressive the way he should have been. I could see that he didn't have the pop behind his punches, but it didn't matter. His hand speed was still there, and if he's lost a step or two speed-wise, it certainly didn't show up last night. I don't know what to think of Broner. I guess my clinging to the fact that the kid had talent, his mindset isn't there. He thinks he's better than he is. He should have changed his game plan a little bit, but credit to Pacquiao for being aggressive, because, like I said earlier, Dax, to beat a counterpuncher, a good counterpuncher, the only way to do it is to, be aggressive and land your punches, come in at your opponent in all different angles, throwing punches and head movement. Those are all things that Manny did. That won him the fight, in my opinion.
The volume, the output that, he let go. But, an interesting stat is in their last 6 fights, Adrien Broner actually let his hands go more, and he's landed at a higher rate than Pacquiao. So you thought that, maybe with that 40-year-old age that Pacquiao's at, that would have been some sort of, something that would have tipped in Broner's favor. But no. And again, that's because Manny Pacquiao has fought and won at the higher level, and he was able to be more versatile. He went in there with a better game plan. And Adrien Broner, you made a very valid point on where, his early fights, he had so much success, and when it came time, he had to dig deep, and he had to come from behind. I think Adrien Broner he was never taught that in the gym. He was never given that opportunity early on to deal with a little adversity. He was never, as we always complain about these guys getting the right fights to round out their skill set, Adrien Broner was never given, the proper types of journeyman, on the way up there to help him round out that skill set and to put him in situations where he had to, change his game plan, on the fly, which in the ring you have to do at that level especially.
No doubt. Did you notice anything that Broner could have done to make this a different fight, aside from throw more punches?
Yeah, he had to let his hands go, and he had to move his feet, keep turning Pacquiao. Let your hands go and make Pacquiao reset, and then keep moving him. If you ever watch Manny Pacquiao throughout his whole career, when guys turn, man, he has to reset himself, because that's when he always lets loose those 3, 4, and 5 punch combinations, and Adrien Broner wasn't able to do that.
Now some of the other fights that took place on the pay-per-view card. The first one I'll talk about real quick is the Browne fight, Marcus Browne. I picked Badu Jack in this fight, so I was obviously wrong. And I was impressed with Marcus Browne. He was in great shape, moving around, and totally took it to Badu Jack. Badu Jack started late in this fight. Or maybe he never even really started at all. He seemed to look every bit of his age in that fight. But it seemed, now the next morning, it seems that I'm more disappointed in Browne than Jack's performance, even though it should be the other way. And the reason why I say I'm disappointed, Dax, even though he did everything right and won the fight decisively, was the way he delivers his punches kind of strange. He kind of slaps with the heel of his glove, and his footwork, unless he was just doing it for Badou Jack, seemed awfully strange. I don't know. Is it me, or is there just something major missing from Marcus Browne?
Well, again, Marcus Browne is a guy who he had lost the Hot Rod fight, in my opinion. In everybody's opinion, he lost that fight. And Marcus Browne has become one of those guys who became very overly confident, overly dependent on his power. He went in there with Badou Jack. He fought smart. I think he realized, I'm in there with a guy that's just levels above anybody I've ever faced before. I can't get careless. I've seen Badou Jack get knocked down. I've seen him get hit by guys like Adonis Stevenson, and he's gotten back up. So I'm going to have to use my size advantage, my reach advantage, and my youth advantage, which he did. And, Badou Jack, he just was never able to get it going for whatever reason. I don't know. It was an off night. Maybe, as you stated, age just caught up to him. There's really no telling, but Marcus Browne, he did a good job. He looked like a cruiserweight in there. He looked so much bigger than Badou Jack. Marcus Browne, I think that he needs to snap his jab a little more. He needs to be a little bit more fluent with his footwork. I like the way that he had definitely capitalized and utilized his reach smartly, but honestly, Marcus Browne, he needs to have some more fights before they foolishly try and accept the fight with Alexander Vodzik, because that style or not, Vodzik, a guy like Vodzik would just walk right through him. Same thing with, Badou Jack. I can kind of understand now, after looking at that fight, why they decided to vacate that WBA title and avoid Dimitri Bivol.
Well, the thing with Jack is that he really doesn't have much punching power, and the game plan for Marcus Browne to tie him up worked and neutralized him to do.
But did he get a little ugly though? Marcus Browne, you talk about Bill on his whole overall skill set. He doesn't really know how to tie up a fighter. It's more or less just like an ugly clinch.
I'm with you. I'm not impressed with the guy, and I feel bad. He's a New York guy, and he wants to fight. There's just some strange question marks. Like, for example, during the fight, there seemed to be kind of a major removal of him and Gary Stark. I mean, all of a sudden he wasn't listening to Gary Stark, and they were going back and forth. He seemed to just be ignoring him. But then at the end of the fight, he praised Gary Stark. So I don't know. Maybe it's just their relationship.
Maybe he's just the wrong trainer for a kid.
I don't know. I'll tell you who might be the wrong trainer is Louis Duval. Telling Badou Jack, listen, trust me when I tell you this cut's not that bad. And then when I saw Dax, that was one of the most gruesome cuts I've ever seen. And I don't think they should have. I don't think they should have let that fight continue. And not because the blood was trickling in the eye like usually the cuts that take place over the eye. The reason why they stop, but the amount of blood that was spitting out. I mean, there should be a fine line between is blood going in the eye. Or is it just, do we have a pint of it on the canvas? I mean, at some point, a decision had to be made. There was he wasn't winning that fight. He wasn't coming back and he's not a knockout punch. They should have stopped that fight. I'm disappointed in at least the corner.
They should have, could have. It's a look back, but we've seen worse. I think last night, I might have spoke with Alex on Twitter, and where I had stated that cut really wasn't as bad as the Edwin Valero cut in his fight against Antonio DeMarco. Remember when early on he was just totally split to the bone. Same thing for Lennox Lewis with Vitaly Klitschko, and that one was brutal. Except Vitaly's cut was more above his eye, and that was actually starting to split down the eyelid, which is what caused that them to make the decision that fight had to be stopped. This one, I didn't notice exactly how bad and how deep it was until the end of the fight when they got rid of some of that blood and you could actually see straight down to the bone. So maybe, during the fight they didn't realize how deep that really was.
Then they need to get a better doctor. Jeez. You're right. When they put that's when it was that's when I had to really turn away, was when at the end of the fight, and you saw it, it went right down. Anyway. One of the most entertaining fights of the night, and I'm not discrediting Pacquiao Broner because it was entertaining. But how about Nordini Ubuliai winning the vacant WBC belt over rau'shee Warren. I love the fight, and I have a feeling they're going to meet again. What was your thoughts on that one?
Well, Abulai has a win over Warren in the Olympics, and he has a win over Warren as a professional. One thing I did notice about Abulai is, did you notice the back on him? That guy was just nothing but muscle from behind. And a light-hitting rau'shee Warren, in my opinion, just had no way to keep him off. rau'shee Warren, has never been really a power puncher. He's never been really an overactive puncher. He's a skilled fighter, but for some reason his work rate and his pace is slow. Abulai came. He knew that he was the visiting fighter, that he had to be dominant to win, and that's exactly what he did. So, yeah, they might meet again right now with that World Boxing Super 6 series. The World Boxing Super Series going on. There are no other top bantamweights out there. In fact, all the very best bantamweights are in that series. So, this might have been the only, top level fight for either one of those guys to have. It'd be interesting to see what happens next with both guys. I don't think rau'shee Warren, the loss, even before, even if it was a win, he wasn't really that relevant in the division. And Abulai, it'd be interesting to see exactly what happens to him next. There's a lot of good names for him to fight in that division.
And let's talk about the news that was released late this past week. Canelo Alvarez going up against Danny Jacobs, signed, sealed, and delivered. A unification fight will be taking place during Cinco de Mayo weekend, May 4th. Dax, I love this fight. And if you would have asked me who was going to win this fight if it was signed, sealed, and delivered 2 years ago, I probably would have leaned towards Canelo. But now, I'm not so sure. I have this strange feeling that Danny Jacobs is going to come out on top. What's your thoughts on this fight?
Oh, I love the fight. Danny Jacobs wanted this fight when the Canelo and Triple G fight, the rematch, was in jeopardy. Now that they're both with DAZN, so it was inevitable that it was going to happen. It's a unification fight. The only other title not held by either one of these guys would be that WBO title, which Demetrius Andrade has. So it's very significant for the division. And again, I agree with you. If you asked me a couple years ago on who would have won this fight, I would have picked Canelo without a second question. But Danny Jacobs has totally evolved as a fighter. We now know that Danny Jacobs has a very solid chin. So this is, it truly is a mega fight. Who's going to win? I don't know. Is it going to be Danny Jacobs' boxing ability and power, or is it going to be Canelo's counterpunching? Either way, I'm just happy that the fight is made for 2018, because this is the direction that we want to see boxing go in. And the fact that, again, it's these new streaming platforms just seem to be raising the bar.
They did have a stipulation in the contract that states that Canelo cannot eat any kind of beef, no matter where it is. He's only going to be allowed to eat chicken and fish and vegetables. So hopefully we won't have any BS happening there. Were you as surprised as I was with the Jennings loss to Oscar Rivas?
No, not really. Brian Jennings, I like him, a good fighter. He's just not a heavyweight for this era. And again, not even as Oscar Rivas, who's actually smaller than Brian Jennings. But I think, Brian Jennings, his best performance was against Vladimir Klitschko. I think a lot of us thought, because of that performance, that Brian Jennings was going to go on to bigger and better things. Klitschko would lose his title in his next fight to Tyson Fury. I think that maybe Brian Jennings just caught Klitschko at the wrong time, and that's, at the right time, rather, and that's what allowed him to last the distance. Other than that, though, Brian Jennings is a guy that, he's a very good fighter. He's not a great fighter. I think he's in the wrong division, and you could possibly be right. I heard you state earlier, speaking with Sal, that, the Luis Ortiz fight just took a lot out of him. As for Oscar Rivas, what's next for him? I really don't know. Again, he's a very small, undersized heavyweight, and the top names in this division, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. Those are guys, if you're undersized, you stand no chance against, especially Tyson Fury, a guy who's hard enough to hit. Man, he has an iron chin. So,
yeah, I think the fight with Luis Ortiz, who's scheduled for a pretty big fight himself pretty soon. I think that ruined, Brian Jennings. I think it changed the way his approach on fighting, and I thought that was evident on Friday night. Back to Manny Pacquiao, Broner. What's next? I mean, we all know what the rumor is. for Pacquiao with his next fight. Like his wife was saying in all the pre-fight interviews, et cetera, she wants him to fight one more time and then hang him up. That one more fight, if it even should take place, because it wouldn't be a bad idea for Manny to walk away on top right now with a very significant win over Adrien Broner. Obviously, that fight is Floyd Mayweather. My first question is, do you see it happening? And number two, what would you say the result would be?
Most likely, it will happen. It's a money grab for both guys. First, I will be honest, and I went through a little debate with Lou DiBella last night. I don't want to see the fight. I don't care about the fight. It's not a significant fight. It's a WWE event. I don't think that either one of those guys, after the first fight, have done anything to make fans outside of this new era fans who like more show and more talk over substance to say that these guys should, deserve $70 million apiece. Lou DiBella, he made a valid point last night saying, what do you think this whole fight is about between Broner and Pacquiao to set that up? I said, it'd be different if maybe Mayweather and Pacquiao were going to go fight some of these young, stronger guys, an Errol Spence or a Terrence Crawford or even a Sean Porter. And, Lou DiBella, came straight out and said, who cares about the quality? It's about money. It's a business. That exactly shows why American boxing has declined so much.
Yeah, but, here's the thing. You know the old saying, Dax, give the people what they want. So if the people are willing to shell out the money, I shelled out $75 last night for Canelo and Broner. Pacquiao Broner, which, let's be real. I don't even know if that fight was worth that much. Not entertainment value, but the fight itself, especially the rest of the card. So if people are willing to shell out the money, fine. And I also agree what you're saying. We all define it as a WWE event, and the reason we say that, in case you guys don't get it, is because it means nothing else in boxing. These two guys have, if they have a collision course for a rematch and to make another truckload of money, that's fine. But we're not talking about the two best fighters of a division squaring off. We're talking about two old fighters that still have some interest in fighting, still have some fan interest in fighting each other. Because if either one of these guys wanted to continue to be a dominant force in the welterweight division, like a Sugar Ray Robinson did back in his day, Manny Pacquiao would be going after one of the top guns, would be going after an Errol Spence or a Keith Thurman or even a Terrence Crawford. Those would be the fights. And Dax, I know you agree with me. Pacquiao's not beating those guys.
No, he's not, and right now neither is Floyd Mayweather.
Exactly.
Floyd Mayweather a few years ago, but he's not. This is why. And Bill, I'll be honest with you, it's not really worth the time. It's not worth the time to get into it. I want to worry about the now, not the money grabs. The now, the guys that are relevant in the sport.
No, hey, you're right, 100%. And what makes it even worse is you have guys like Terrence Crawford, who's not fighting an Errol Spence right away. Or a Sean Porter who's not going after, either one of those guys, a Terrence Crawford. I believe he would want to fight him. But that's the problem with the sport. We leave, our sport itself leaves the door open for carnival acts like a Mayweather-Pacquiao rematch. It's sad, but it's true.
It is sad. Here's a question. Last night, Bill, get your opinion, maybe Alex and Sal's, when they jump on. Bob Bennett and the MGM, for whatever reason, they refused to allow WBC fighters, in last night's case, it would be Warren and Nobali, and then it would be Badu Jack and Marcus Browne, to weigh in the same day at the MGM for the WBC safety weight program. Ubali and Rau'shee Warren in the dressing rooms at the MGM Grand were nice enough to weigh in and give out those weights and show those weights. But I don't understand why Bob Bennett would not allow these guys to participate publicly in this program, which is a safe weight program. It's safe for the boxers. It's good for the boxers. It's good for the sport. Who is Bob Bennett protecting? Who didn't come in on weight, and Bob Bennett knew that, who maybe gained too much weight overnight, and Bob Bennett knew that, and he didn't want to sit there and jeopardize something on that card because one of those guys who happened to be associated with one of those promoters who out there who bring in a lot of money, may have lost out.
you know more than anyone, and if anybody has watched this show, they know my feelings towards Bob, the gutless, spineless piece of garbage, Bennett from Las Vegas, from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. But I think that the main reason here, and, some of the networks do it and some of them don't, but, the WBC, and if we had to pick the top sanctioning body of the major ones, I'm sure we would pick the WBC because they're all bad, but the WBC is probably the best of the top 4 or 5. But here's the thing. They are not boxing. They are not sanctioning a fight. Technically, they may sanction a title fight, but at the end of the day, the commission is involved. They're the ones calling the shots, and their rules do not require it. I think it was more of a power play like that, Dax.
But that's unacceptable, Bill. It's unacceptable, and you're right, but it's unacceptable.
Why is it unacceptable when you're fighting? And I'm just, Dax, just so you know, it's not that I'm disagreeing with you at all, because I do believe that a fighter should be weighed the night of the fight. The big difference with this is the WBC has that rehydration clause in their title fights, and Nevada State Athletic Commission, if it wasn't in the contract, they're not going to support it. So maybe they were just keeping that so it wouldn't cause any kind of issues?
Well, what about, the safety? We stress all the time. Earlier on, you were speaking about the Badu Jack Marcus Browne fight should have been stopped because of the cut. That was a safety issue. Again, the weight is a safety issue. That's why the WBC wants this. That's why the IBF has that 10-pound rehydration rule, because it's a safety issue. So these commissions, the state, forget about the power play. Let's worry about the safety of the fighters. By doing so, I'm disappointed. It's reckless. Again, it's a money grab. The fighters come second. The money comes first. These guys are making the money off the sweat of these guys, the risk that these guys are taking to make a living and achieve greatness, and that's unfair. Why don't you step in the ring, Bob Bennett, and you go in there and you risk something? Then you can say, you know what doesn't matter. I went and did it. I know the dangers, but they're not, and it's not right. And so it just disgusts me. It bothers me. Last thing before we go, Bill, just want to mention, I think it deserves a mention, is Amanda Serrano. I think on Friday night she cemented herself as the greatest female fighter in the history of the sport.
I don't even know what she do. I got to be honest.
She is the only 7-division female world champion, and she just totally destroyed Eva Vorenberger with a body shot in that first round. And Vorenberger is no walkover, an easy fighter. Vorenberger is an accomplished fighter. Amanda Serrano has won titles all the way from flyweight to junior featherweight to junior welterweight, and now that's going to set up actually the very first mega fight for female boxing. I mean, a genuine mega fight for female boxing. That's going to be Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor.
That ought to be a good one, and I feel I apologize to you that I wasn't aware of it. And I like Amanda Serrano. I've gotten to call a couple of her fights, but anyway.
Yes, your fight. Matter of fact, Bill, I was thinking about you the other night. The only loss on her record came right after the fight that you called between her and Ilya Nunes.
Yeah, and that was a controversial fight. But the Nunez fight was good, and then I got to call the one after the loss when she won again. So she's good, and her trainer. I mean, they got a good team. I just I feel stupid, but hey, thanks for filling me in, and thanks
That's what I'm here for.
That's right, keeping me straight. Dax, stay warm, and we'll talk to you next time, brother.
All right, everybody, enjoy your day and stay inside.
That's Dax Kahn. You can check out his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. Listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we're going to have the technically challenged Alex Papali join us. So don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
have osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Don't forget to check us out on your streaming device. That's right, your favorite streaming device, whether you subscribe to Roku or any of the others. You can now watch our show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then some. Some specials that we did. All of the Boxing Revisited episodes are up there, and a bunch of stuff we've done for years. We've been doing this now 15 years. So check it out. All the information can be found. Ginico, I think that's how you say it. GINIKOUSA.com. Check it out. Sign up right now for free. Joining us right now. And a guy who you can see on some of those old broadcasts. Alex Papali and I did several events that I forgot about till I started watching. I'm saying, who's these young guys? And it was it's just me and Alex. What's up, Alex?
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Pacquiao, Broner, your thoughts, sir?
I thought it was, kind of predictable. I was hoping that it would be a little bit more exciting, but I do think that, what was interesting is that we do see that there's quite a bit left in Manny Pacquiao, which for me is kind of hard to believe. It seems like this is, in terms of sports, this is like the weekend of 40-year-olds, because you got Manny Pacquiao last night, and you got two 40-year-old, 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks tonight. I don't know. It's amazing that he's still able to function at that high a level after such a long career. But when you think about it, he has taken quite a bite out of the current welterweight division. And, you know, I mean, I don't think he beats Terrence Crawford, but he beats Danny Garcia, I think. Maybe not, but I think that that's a competitive fight, which is kind of hard to believe at where, you know, with a 40-year-old. He doesn't fight the way he used to, but he's still got an enormous fan base, and I think that will cheer for him no matter what he does. And I think in this sport that goes a long way, and that's probably why we will see a Mayweather rematch, even though it's probably not as interesting in terms of an athletic competition. It will be, you know, a moneymaker. So they'll probably have it.
Here's why it is a fight that will garner interest, and the reason why it will make a lot of money. What we have with a Mayweather-Pacquiao rematch is something that is what we want in the sport. And what I mean by that is two fighters that are over 40 years old fighting each other. This isn't a 40-year-old fighting a 29-year-old, although that's what we saw last night. This isn't a 40-year-old fighting a up-and-coming killer and you know, to get the name on the resume, so to speak, like Broner was hoping for last night. This is two guys that are, you know, pretty much the same age. You know, one's a defensive fighter, one's an offensive fighter. One is just offensive. But, you know, I mean, the other thing is that I believe that if Manny Pacquiao fights the same way he fought Adrien Broner last night against Mayweather the second time out, he's going to beat Mayweather. Mayweather is a defensive counterpuncher. He's not an offensive-minded fighter, and he's not going to be able to connect with Manny, you know, the way he may have been able to if they both fought in their prime. Unfortunately, we were robbed of that. But I see this fight happening, and I see it being doing well with the pay-per-view only because it's put in perspective. These are two guys that are not relative or relevant in the welterweight division, despite Manny Pacquiao having a title. These are two 40-year-old plus guys that are fighting each other, and I think it's still going to garner interest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, when definitely the fact that they're both over the hill, it does make it you know, more appealing in that sense, in the sense of who has more left. But I don't see Manny Pacquiao being any more competitive than he was last time against Floyd Mayweather. The thing about Floyd that's different than Adrien Broner is that he makes adjustments, and he fights to win, whereas Adrien Broner does not fight to win. So I think that's the thing that would have been different, is that if you know, Manny Pacquiao brought what he brought last night against Floyd Mayweather would have adjusted and found some other tools that would have, you know, stymied that jab. And that's the other thing too about being a counterpuncher like Adrien Broner. If it's going to work, you're going to have to land your counterpunches more often and in significant bunches enough to make the person hesitate. And he just never did. Whereas Floyd definitely did. I mean, that's how Floyd nullified Mosley. Remember when Sugar Shane, even though that was a long time ago, when Sugar Shane Mosley rocked him in that second round? Well, the third round, Floyd starts throwing a left hook that you don't expect, and he'd catch Mosley on the way in, so Mosley would hesitate a little. Floyd he's a master of that, of doing what needs to be done, making little adjustments, little wrinkles in his game to outsmart you. I still think that he's got that talent against Manny Pacquiao, and that Manny relies on just plain volume of punches and speed and angles. Those things fade more than Mayweather's craft fades, as much as Mayweather's been away from the sport. And Billy C, he did just knock out that Japanese guy, which that was impressive.
Yeah. It's like him knocking out the parking attendant, too, remember? When he beat up the 19-year-old parking attendant. Floyd, listen, the point is this, and I can't stand Floyd. I don't even want to give him the hype. But, Pacquiao fought Broner to fight Floyd. And it was not an easy battle. I was criticized for saying that Pacquiao was going to struggle with Broner and everything else. And you know what? The truth of the matter is the fight went exactly how I predicted. I predicted Pacquiao to win the fight via a decision. Broner has a solid chin. He's an idiot, but he's got a solid chin. He didn't throw enough punches. So when you look at Floyd and you say, okay, let's just assume, based on Floyd's history, that he's got a tighter defense and he's more accurate with his punches. Let's just say that, okay? And I believe it, but let's just say the same version of Manny Pacquiao. Now, it's critical that is thrown into the equation. The same version of Manny Pacquiao that showed up last night shows up to fight Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd Mayweather does the same stuff, is elusive defensively, ties up his opponents, etc., etc. But Manny is attacking him. He's going in with the kill or be killed attitude. He's moving, he's punching from different angles. Floyd is going to have to make an adjustment, something Adrien Broner did not do. And that means Floyd may have to exchange. I don't see Floyd exchanging. I see Floyd trying to rob Pacquiao, and I see Pacquiao getting the nod on the scorecards just like he did last night. Even though a lot of those punches he did miss Broner. Broner did avoid a lot of those punches. But the bottom line is you can't win a fight unless you're throwing punches, Alex.
This is true. Yeah, I mean, I think that it is likely to happen, and I think that's one of the reasons why we saw that fight last night. The biggest, it was sort of, I don't want to be so negative, but it was sort of an easy promotion in the sense that you had a guy like Adrien Broner who was willing to, he loves being the heel, and what's the easiest form of promotion is the white hat versus the black hat. And that's sort of the way this promotion went. Broner, played the bad guy, sort of played it the best against Jim Gray and Al Bernstein. He forgot to bring the bad guy attitude against Manny. But so I don't know. I think that, yes, it was sort of a preamble to a possible rematch with Mayweather. I'm not as interested in that. I think that's, certainly not going to stop it from happening. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what Keith Thurman has when he fights Josecito Lopez. But I do think that I don't know. I'd be curious to see what Thurman looks like, because that's somebody that Manny Pacquiao might be able to beat. Just because even though he's big and strong, his inactivity's been incredible. I don't know. There's still things. The sun hasn't set on Manny Pacquiao. On Manny Pacquiao as a welterweight, which is hard to believe. And I think that, to me, there are some other things for him to do other than fight Mayweather or be president of the Philippines. I think that, he is still one of the top welterweights, and that is pretty stunning. But I think Terrence Crawford beats him and beats him badly.
You see, this is where my point is that, truthfully, Mayweather or Pacquiao will not beat some of these young guns. Despite, none of these young guns having the resume of either Pacquiao or Mayweather. The only significant fight left for these guys, if they choose to do it, is to fight each other. I don't think there's anything left for Manny Pacquiao to prove. As a matter of fact, if Floyd won't fight him, then if I'm Manny Pacquiao, I hang him up. There's nothing he's got to prove. There's no reason he's got to go in there and fight one of these young guns. It just doesn't make sense. And then to go back to the possibility of a Pacquiao-Floyd rematch, the only reason why I want to see it is I want a decisive ending. I want somebody to get knocked out. I want somebody to get beaten up really badly, and that somebody is Floyd Mayweather. But I mean, the truth of the matter is that I want, you need a decisive win. I mean, I thought that Floyd won the first fight decisively, and then all of a sudden you hear about the shoulder. Then you hear some of the Pacquiao fans, which are delusional, feeling that he won the fight. So I mean, what that fight needs. The simple fact that the two fighters were parallel throughout their whole careers, and the fans were robbed of a possibility of some great fights between the two because they fought so late, is a decisive ending. A no BS type of, so-and-so knocked out so-and-so, So I don't know. I kind of would be surprised if Floyd takes the rematch. Floyd only wants fights that he knows he can win 100%. And looking at the way Pacquiao fought and, what you alluded to with Floyd's last stay busy fight against a really, really, really small Japanese guy. I don't even know. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see it at all, Alex.
It's possible. I mean, Floyd was very cagey, as you expect Floyd to be last night when they mentioned it. But because he's not, as much as he likes to self-promote, he's certainly not going to do business in public. So the idea that Jim Gray was going to get him to agree to the fight with just a nod, that was kind of ridiculous. But, I do think it'll happen because, as we know, what's the saying? Money talks and walks. So I do think that we will see it. No, I'm not all that excited. I think maybe it'll be a little more decisive, but I don't know, Billy C. I don't see those two guys fighting thrilling Manila type fight where it's real decisive and brutal. I think it'll still be tactical. I think the thing about Manny Pacquiao now at 40 years old is, and you can't blame him for this because he's given so much, is he doesn't risk quite as much as he used to. And the most aggressive, the most damaging he looked last night was, what was it? I think it was the 10th, or the end of the 10th when, or maybe it was the 9th, when Broner caught Manny at the end of the round with like two hard punches, and then it was the next round where Manny really hurt him and had that little moment where he just exploded to the head and the body. That was the way he used to fight for 12 rounds. You don't get that kind of Manny anymore. He's 40 years old. I think I don't know, that's a young man's style of fight, but that's what this sport is. I don't know. There was a part of me that was rooting for Adrien Broner to sort of, have a changing of the guard last night, but that certainly was not in the cards in the least.
I think if Floyd and Manny fight again, it's going to be the exact same fight we saw last night, with the exception of I still don't believe that Floyd has the chin of Adrien Broner. And people could argue with me because, the big argument is, well, you can't hit him. You can't hit him when he's tying you up and when he's running around the ring like the way he does. So I just have a feeling that Manny found something. Maybe that one fight away from Freddie Roach has helped him. He was definitely in great shape. Floyd will be perfect and in his great shape. So we're going to see a battle of 40-plus guys, and it's going to be relative to their ages, and it still should be competitive. Alex,
It would be nice to see if, when you think about it, because with Ali Frazier, as they got older, the fight became much more brutal and more decisive. And that happened with Bo and Holyfield. But I don't know. These guys are not Ali Frazier. They're not Bo Holyfield. They both have chose more strategic, tactical performances in their later career. So I'm not sure it would be a fun fight, but that's, it will definitely happen. I mean, look at the fans. I'd be curious what the pay-per-view numbers were, but look at the fans that came out for him. He still puts asses in seats. So
yeah, that's one thing is 100% for sure. He puts asses in seats. Big fight that was announced. Well, before we get to that, how about Jorge Linares getting knocked out by Pablo Cesar Cano? I love Cano, and I've always wished that he, didn't get put in with the, A-level opponents as quickly as he did. Is this the end for Linares?
I don't know, but that was amazing. I just watched it this morning. I didn't watch that. That was on the undercard of the Andrade fight. I didn't watch that Andrade fight, so I wasn't able to. I had heard that Linares got upset, but I just watched it this morning. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I mean, I think it did seem that it was the size. I mean, I don't know. Linares is a hell of a fighter. He's always been a hell of a fighter. However, you could catch him. And, he was, I don't know. I mean, that wasn't a moment where it was like, well, he's just got a fragile chin. Because they were, really engaging. But he certainly caught him cold. And it could have been that, part of it was the size, that he's being hit harder by a guy that, he's never been hit that hard by a man that big. But yeah, I don't know. This could very well be the end. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets himself together. He's a hell of a fighter, Linares, and he is kind of a throwback to the older days because he hasn't let defeats finish him, whereas a lot of guys today in the modern age, they take one or two losses and then they're never the same. I mean, if you think about it, one of the best fights last year was him and Lomachenko. So it is hard to believe that here he is, get blasted out one round. But all credit to Cano, man. He definitely caught him in that right hand. He kept landing it. But I think it was, a left hook, I think, that finally ended things.
I just, the kid, he's taken lightly because fighters today and their management just look at records and they think, if you really dissect Cano's record and see who he's put in with, and as early as he was, you could see why. And he's still young. That's the other thing, but in any event. Big fight announcement, Canelo Alvarez going up against Danny Jacobs. I love this fight. And although we'll be able to talk about it for several months before it actually happens, and we do know, you did hear that Canelo's not allowed to have any kind of beef between now and fight time just to be safe. But the truth of the matter is, what's that?
It's just lentils.
Yeah, it's just lentils and chicken. And did you see the chickens? They had to bring it in on a tractor trailer. That was one big ass chicken. I didn't know they grew that big in Mexico. But anyway, if like I said earlier on the show, if somebody would have asked me 2 years ago who would win, or even 3 years ago, who would win, Danny Jacobs or Canelo, I wouldn't have even hesitated. I would have said Canelo. But Danny Jacobs has evolved into a pretty good fighter. He's got the hand speed. He's learned how to take a punch a little better. Or maybe, I don't know, or maybe his illness really did have something to do with his knockout loss. And he's a big guy. And I'm not saying that Canelo's not big, but Danny Jacobs is big. It is what it is with Triple G and Canelo. I felt Triple G won both of the fights, but he is an aging fighter, and he's not that big. Everybody said he's so big, but he's not when we saw him in with legitimate middleweights. Now all of a sudden you got Canelo, who thinks who he is, and believes all the press clippings and the whispers in his ear, and he's going against a really hungry Danny Jacobs. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think this is a layup fight for Canelo at all. What's your early thoughts?
Yes, it's definitely not a layup, but I do like Canelo as much as I do think Danny Jacobs is, one of the top 3 or 4 middleweights in the world. I do think that I think Canelo beats him. The thing about it definitely will give Canelo a different look than he's faced in a while, and a more tactically savvy guy than he's fought in a while. Granted, what better practice can you have than fighting Golovkin, who's the best guy at middleweight other than yourself? So it's not like he hasn't. That's where I would favor Canelo, is in terms of experience. He's seen almost everything at this point in his career. So no, I don't think Danny Jacobs brings him a couple wrinkles that he maybe hasn't seen in a couple of fights. But in terms of strategy and stuff, and like you said, he is a bigger guy. But I'm not sure Canelo has shown any problem with that. Look what he did against the super middleweight that he just fought. So no, I think Canelo wins that fight. I don't think he stops Danny Jacobs, but I think he wins a pretty lopsided decision. I'm a little disappointed because I thought at one point last week, as much as that is a good fight, I'm a little disappointed because I thought at one point last week I did read that Golovkin had signed with the DAZN, and they were going to do the rubber match for Cinco de Mayo, but I guess that fell through, huh?
Yeah, well, the Danny Jacobs issue is that, the big question is going to be this. Can Danny Jacobs find an answer to protect his body? Not that he has shown susceptibility to body shots, but we know that Canelo is going to attack the body. So if Danny Jacobs can figure out a way to combat that, it's going to be an interesting fight. If not, this fight won't last because the body will break down Danny Jacobs regardless of how he's improved. So
Canelo is an interesting situation because in some ways I still don't think we've seen the best of him, and that's kind of hard to believe. But I don't know. I think he beats Danny Jacobs, but I still would like to see the Golovkin a rubber match. However, as we knew from the rematch, the more time goes by, the better Canelo gets, and the older Golovkin gets.
Well, yeah, the Triple G and Canelo, the way they treat Triple G should just. That's a whole nother can of worms. But they're going to force Triple G into fighting somebody else, and then you're right, another year will go by, and he'll be the 40-year-old fighter. So in any event,
hey, I did want to ask you. I haven't taken the plunge and gotten that ESPN Plus yet, but I did just catch the last round, at least, of Bryant Jennings. Was Rivas losing the whole fight, or what was the story going up to that last round?
It was a snooze fest. It was basically Rivas being the aggressor and Bryant Jennings trying to pull a Broner, counter-punching. I did have Rivas ahead at the time of the stoppage, and I'm a Jennings fan. I just, I don't know why fighters that go into this counter-punching mode just live and die by it. And the only explanation is to think that you can knock your opponent out because you're giving up all those rounds while you're doing that, while you're sitting there waiting and trying to counter punch that KO, unless you have devastating hand speed and you can counter punch a combination and get out of harm's way. Let's face it, that's what Floyd did. Floyd had hand speed, was able to counter punch 2 or 3 shots and then run. But it wasn't worth to rewatch, to be honest with you. But the DAZN is really moving forward. That's for sure.
I do want to watch that card, and I did hear that the Andrade stoppage was a little controversial, so I want to check that out. The other thing that I did want to mention is I saw Badu Jack tweeted some photos of himself coming back from the plastic surgeon, and he didn't say a number, but it's amazing how many stitches are in that cut, and that was one of the more grisly cuts that I can remember seeing in the sport in terms of blood.
Oh my God! Yeah, but even just the cut itself. And Lou DeVal, if I'm Badu Jack, I fire Lou DeVal. He would already be fired, because a guy that's looking at me as a fighter. If I'm in the corner and I'm looking at my trainer, and my trainer's saying, "Hey, listen, trust me, it may feel bad, but that cut's not that bad." I was saying to myself, "Oh my God, what would he say if somebody just slit his throat?" You know, like, you just need a Band-Aid. Don't mind all of that blood spitting all over everybody. I mean, who was it? Tony Weeks was covered in blood. I mean, that was like a move. It was almost like Airplane when they were sweating. You remember the scene when he's sweating? It was like a hose. That was the way it was. It was like, oh my God, somebody stopped this fight. The doctor, you okay? Okay, let it go. And I'm like, hello? How many pints of blood do you got to lose before they wave it off?
That's what I was just going to say. There's only 8 pints in the whole body. He had to have leaked out at least a pint and a half out his face.
I know. It was bad. Alex, great job as usual. We'll look forward to you next week, brother.
All right, Billy C., take care.
That's Alex Papali giving us his thoughts. And, hey, his thoughts are always welcomed. We like his thoughts. But anyway, good fight last night for Manny Pacquiao. Many speculate that his next fight will indeed be against Floyd Mayweather. I have some emails I want to read real quick. This first, I actually have 2 from my man Jesse, and he says, "Here's my picks." Now, Jesse always likes to give us his picks for the fights. And this was, I actually got this just prior to the fights coming on live last night. He says, "Billy and Sal, here's my picks. Manny against Broner, he thought would end in a draw. He did say that Abulai was going to win a majority decision over Warren. He said maybe it would be controversial. He picked Badu Jack over Browne and Topuria over Ruiz. Topuria, he says, "What's your thoughts?" My thoughts are he didn't dedicate himself enough because he didn't make the fight because of his overweight. Browne did surprise me. I, too, had Badu Jack, and I didn't even pick the Abulai fight. He also says he wanted Andrade late stoppage over Kurov, which he did do. He picked Rivas over Jennings, which came, that came into tuition. He says, "What's your thoughts on Canadian heavyweight Mladen Majias? I don't know much about him." He says, "I'm happy for the Canelo-Jacobs fight. This is a good fight. These are the types of opponents Canelo must face from now on. What weight do you suppose this fight will be?" Well, it's for the middleweight unification fight, so I'm hoping that it's going to be a max weight of 160. And he says, "Lastly, what's your thoughts on Mikey training at Snack with Victor Conte? He's been getting a lot of heat from the fans and supposed boxing experts that there's suspicious, but he's signed up with VADA testing. So people are hard on Victor Conte for fighters such as Willie Monroe getting caught with PEDs. Conte said he's not seen Monroe for 5 months, so what goes on with Monroe and his team is none of his business." Listen, I've always found it strange that a guy like Victor Conte, who was the main piece of that huge lawsuit with performance-enhancing drugs, should be allowed in any sport. All I know is this: if someone knows how to beat the testing system, it's Victor Conte. Joining us right now again with his thoughts, Sal Rocky Senecola. Sal, I know you do not like cheaters in any way, shape, or form, but what's your thoughts? Am I being too hard on Victor Conte? Does he deserve a second chance?
I'll tell you what, if we continue to lower the benchmark, and you're going to see the floodgates continue to flow. And that's a little redundant, but the bottom line is, it is what it is, Bill. And you're correct. You know my stance. Drugs or performance-enhancing drugs have no place in the world of boxing. They should not, anyway. You have these designers that try to outsmart the commission and try to, mask whatever they can. But there's a reason why, these drugs are banned. There's a reason why. Go to the health food store, and if you want to take a nutritional supplement that it could even work as a placebo if you believe in it, but it could also add some good value to your nutrition. Get the strong foundation, be natural, and work with what you were given as tools when you were born. And that's my thought there, Bill. That's my thought.
The funny thing is that what makes it an issue is when one fighter has it and the other one doesn't. I mean, have purposely tried not to educate myself too much on PEDs, and I know that sounds stupid, but the reason why I do that is so I don't want to make opinions on stuff like this. But the truth of the matter is simply this. They can't keep a handle, from what I do know about performance-enhancing drugs, they can't keep a handle on every one. So when they put them on the banned list, in between the time the next one gets banned, somebody could figure out a way to beat the test. So in a sense, the list is going to be infinite. It's going to keep being added and added. At what point do we say, forget about it? Everybody, here's the PEDs you're allowed to use. Use them. You want to kill each other? You want to hit the ball 6 miles in baseball? You want to run through people as a running back because nobody can stop you. The concern here is the long-term effects, the health. And, it's where the governments or sanctioning bodies, however you want to look at it, they're the ones deciding the fate for your own safety. Is that something that we want to do? I used to say years ago, Sal, who the hell are they to tell me I have to wear a seatbelt? Why do I have to wear a seatbelt? Now, if I want to be an idiot and run the risk of getting tossed through my windshield, that should be a decision I get to make, not the law. But, it is what it is. I wear the seatbelt, of course. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, people are always going to try to find a way to beat the system or cheat or have an advantage. The safe choice of wording is to have an advantage. Years ago, a fighter might train in the woods or chop trees and do that. To them, that was their physical and mental advantage. Now they want to take a pill that gives them the edge. That's the way I see it, kind of in a nutshell.
Well, you analogized it, brilliantly. I mean, I found myself, I'm always in and out of my car. I'm on the go, this and that, and I fool myself and rationalize and say, hey, you know what, if I don't wear a seatbelt, hey, chances are if I have a collision, I'll get thrown through the windshield or I'll roll out of the car or whatever the hell. I don't want to get trapped. But I know it's foolish. It's stupid. And, if we had a choice, the other day I was driving and I said to my son, I said, Nick, let's put on our seatbelt. I want to give him a good example. When I'm alone, do I wear my seatbelt? I conveniently forget to, and I'm on 95. I'm all over the place, but I will start wearing it now because I do know the realities. I'm going to choose to do that and wear the seatbelt.
They even build the cars to give you the annoying buzz until you put your seatbelt on. I mean, it's like,
Oh, you know what? Here's what I do, though, Bill. When I'm in a new car or I got a rental because my car's in the shop, more times than not, I just count the dings. And I know I have to endure it until they stop. And usually it cycles out after like 10 or 15.
It's an easier way. You go to the junkyard. You get a seatbelt end from the junkyard from the same kind of car, and you snap it in there, and you don't hear the ding, you don't hear nothing, but you still get the ticket. But anyway, I got another email to read. This one is the other one from Jesse. He says, As I write this email, I just saw the destruction of Linares. I think Cano was the wrong opponent because he's a rugged, in-your-face kind of fighter. I think he should stay at 140 and give it a try again. I wouldn't mind seeing Cano against Hooker. I like Cesar Pablo Cano, or Pablo Cesar Cano. I like him, and I'm happy for his win. No disrespect to Linares. He says, I want to see Carlos Adames step it up with opponents such as Patrick Teixeira, Jeff Horn, Julian Williams, Cedric Vitu, or Saluki. He's young at 24 and experiencing boxing. I can't agree. I can't disagree, I should say. He says, lastly, in the Jose Uzukagai fight, Jose just didn't throw enough punches, and he was wild and overswinging. He looked slow and had no fight plan. He didn't throw body punches, but his power was hurting Plant, although the volume wasn't there. It was a good win for him. He should fight anybody in the top 10 next. You know, I always hate, Sal, when they say when you're talking to a team and the trainer is doing all the talking for the fighter. We worked hard. We did this. We did that. We have a game plan. We did that. And then the fighter loses, and they say, well, he didn't listen to me. He didn't do that. He stayed out late last night. The we turns into he. And, Jesse makes a good point. It sounds like Jose just did not have the right game plan. When do fans look at the team? And it's hard in the sport of boxing because it's a one-on-one type of fight when it's happening. But when do you look at a team and say you didn't prepare your guy for this fight?
Good question, Bill. And I'll tell you, you take on a world-class trainer with a world-class fighter because, it's supposed to be a good, solid, reciprocal relationship. The trainer's going to take on the fighter because he knows that this guy is going to lead to title fights and then championships possibly, and he's going to do the right thing, you would assume. You also have the fighter saying, hey, I want a world-class mentor trainer that could either keep me on track or show me a few new things here where I might be slipping or not so aware of. And it's that kind of relationship when it's a good, solid relationship. But, it should be one of communication, one of outline, one of design, and one of, hey, I'm going to leave you well enough alone. We're just going to get you in shape. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you that. Maybe correct a few things or that I see. But it should be a trusted, valued relationship. And if a fighter doesn't have confidence in his trainer, and a trainer doesn't have confidence in a fighter not doing what he wants them to suggest he does, it's going to be the kind of thing, well, he didn't listen to me. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. Because, I had a biggest habit. People would correct me. I'd say, oh, yeah, we did this. We did that. Hey, guess what? I was the only one in the ring by myself throwing punches. And, when all is said and done, yes, the fighter, he's enthusiastic about including other people around him because they're humble and they realize they did learn. And maybe that's where we're going to do this, we're going to do that. The same thing with the trainer. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Because they're almost on the same level, the same page. They're one. They're one like that. And that's where that comes from a lot of times. But you know what? When it doesn't happen and it doesn't work out as planned, they toss each other under the bus.
I know. I got another email. This is the last one. And this one's from Johnston, who has a column up on BillyCBoxing.com, incidentally. And he's got, this is an interesting email. He says, hey, guys, 2017 versus 2018, who wins? You guys decide. He says, we all thought 2017 was a great year for entertainment and sport of boxing and the best fighting, the best, but was 2018 better? Here are 10 random fights from both years. What do you guys think? So in 2017, he has Anthony Joshua versus Klitschko. He's got DeGalley versus Jack. He's got Frampton, Santa Cruz 2. Canelo, Triple G 1. Berchant, Vargas. Thurman, Garcia. Garcia, Broner. Lomachenko against Nomas Rigondeaux. Spence Jr. versus Brook. And Crawford versus Indongo for the undisputed title, which is 10 pretty damn good fights of 2017. Now we look at 2018. Check this out. Fury versus Wilder. Callum Smith versus George Groves. Warrington versus Frampton. Canelo Triple G 2. White versus Parker. Lomachenko against Linares, Berchant against Roman, Jack against Stevenson, AJ against Parker, unification, and Gassiev against Dorticos. I don't know, man. I see 20 great fights. What do you think, Sal?
I see 20 great fights. I'll tell you what. Not to make a decision. I'd say we've been fortunate enough to have 2 back-to-back years with some darn good fights. That's what I was saying to you earlier, Bill. I remember you and I sitting in 2016 saying, you know what? Boxing's coming back. It's not bad. We had a good year this year. And we capped it off with 2017. And then furthermore with 2018. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen this year. And we know the dream fights that we want to see. And so hopefully we'll be sitting here next year saying the same thing with 2019.
Truthfully, you can't complain. Boxing has been on an upswing for the last 4 years. The complaint that old guys like us have is that we complain about the fighters and the way I think there's more problems today with the way the business of boxing is being done. I think it's just getting old, and it's like us, we're getting old. But I think that a lot of young fans aren't following it. So I think if the athletes, from the fighters themselves, we have them. They're probably better in the history of the sport, athleticism wise. The athletes are better. We're bigger. We're stronger. We're faster. We know how to, nutritionally and which PEDs to take. We know how to cycle off. I mean, all these fighters today know all those things. But I think if the business of the sport just rolled a little bit, where we don't devalue a fighter because he loses. We don't have a fighter get a title and then be able to cherry pick their opponents. If fighters actually fought their way up the ladder, I still think we would be treated to these great matchups, but I think we would also have a lot of great fights that are entertaining, that would build the baseline of the sport. The weakness we have in the sport of boxing today is we don't have the fundamental base. We don't have young fighters fighting other young fighters and giving the fans a fight that they're talking about, where they may not even remember the fighters' names, but they remember the event. They remember that small club show that they went to and saw 4 great fights. I can't wait for that promoter to have another show. That's what we need. We don't need these kinds of social media built up fights which end up putting 2 names together, and then the fight doesn't live up to the expectations. Although these 20 fights that Johnston laid out for us are pretty damn good, but that's all I think. I think the only thing that's hurting the sport right now really is the way we conduct the business of the sport and the way fighters are able to be maneuvered into title opportunities versus fighting their way and earning those title shots, Sal.
Well, it's a good point, Bill. And, like I said, in our old day in the school of thought was we had to climb the rings of the ladder. And you know what? We looked for who was in our division that was ranked. I mean, I remember when I broke into the top 10, I said, well, who could I fight to climb that ladder? And I wanted to look at anybody 9 and up. And not all the way up to 1, and I would fight anybody, and that's the old mentality and mindset that I don't think is as evident today, because again, you know what, we challenge ourselves, and fighters that do that. Like I said, I use an analogy all the time. If you're afraid to lose, you're going to be afraid to win, and that's the whole thing. You got to put it out there. You got to challenge yourself. You have to be in the best shape you can. And going back to the PEDs and everything else, not to get too sidetracked, it's such a tough way to look at things. I mean, do they start a PED division, create more belts for a whole other thing, a set of fighters? I don't think so. I mean, it's ongoing. Do they leave it up to a fighter to see what they want to do? Like you were suggesting, maybe legalize a few things. I mean, other than going to a health food store, whether it's your local mom pop shop or GNC, whatever the heck, you've got enough there naturally available to be the best you can be with the proteins, with the carbohydrates, with the things there, the natural things, even the amino acids and the ergogenic aids, I'll call them, even caffeine that helps elongate the glycogen in your liver to give you a sustained level of endurance over a longer period of time than just 20 minutes that your glycogen does store that energy, that power for. So your liver stores. So, there's a lot of things. And if a fighter educates himself, see what's the good stuff, what's the bad stuff, I don't know, Bill. It's a different game. You and I tried to solve what could we do to really see the way the boxing was. I say go back to 15 rounds. I said go back to certain things that are no longer allowed in boxing today. So, but is it going to happen? No, I don't think so. But there were a lot of things that should happen. I should, including the same day weigh-ins. I think these are things that hurt some of the popularity or some of the things of boxing and made it a little less fair for some fights and fighters.
I tell you though, we complain about the sport today, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was. I recently was watching. Jack Johnson's one of my favorite all-time fighters, and it's hard
all-time, you always said that.
Yeah, it's hard to find real footage of him. Because of the era in which he fought. But I rewatched the Jeffries fight again the other night, or last week it was, and talk about melee. They were having guys from the audience helping Jeffries up, and they were all jumping in the ring, and the fight still continued. I mean, it was like I'm just glad that they don't let that happen. One last thing. Johnston says, hey, last week someone sent you an email with their all-time top 10. Here's mine. He says, and I agree with a lot of these. He says, number one, Sugar Ray Robinson. That's my number one all-time great, Sugar Ray Robinson.
My number one as well.
Yeah, he's got number two, Henry Armstrong, which is legit. He's got Muhammad Ali at number three, Harry Greb at number four, Jack Johnson number five, Willie Pep number six, Roberto Duran number seven, Rocky Marciano number eight, Sugar Ray Leonard at number 9, and he says just for Sal, he's picking Jack Dempsey at number 10, but normally he would have Benny Leonard, Joe Louis, or Joe Gans. So for all of you that don't know that little joke, every time I asked Sal a trivia question, his answer was, what was it, Sal?
Jack Dempsey.
You're right. So he says, not quite top 10, but the top 3 never changes, just the order. You know how it is. I certainly do. And for the record, I want to give my man Johnston credit. He said, my prediction for the Pacquiao-Broner fight, he says, my head says youth, heart. He says, my head says youth to go with Broner, but my heart says go with Pac. He said it was a hard one to call, but I'm going with the Pac-Man. And Johnston, you were right. So that's that. Sal, any final thoughts on Manny Pacquiao's performance over Adrien Broner last night?
No, first of all, I just want to say I do agree with that top 10 a lot more so than the last top 10 we got. But let me tell you, I was happy with Manny Pacquiao's performance, and I thought to myself, this was the Manny Pacquiao that should have fought Floyd Mayweather the first time around, and whatever he threw caution to the wind, and maybe the shoulder, maybe whatever you had to say, but this is the kind of Pacquiao that you would expect. See, too many times when we see a Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao or a great fighter at these later years in their career, we envision the younger version, which is why I chose Broner. I said, well, Manny Pacquiao is not the same fighter he was 10 years ago. But I'll tell you what I saw last night from Manny Pacquiao, I think, he's right up there to have another rematch with Floyd Mayweather. And when I say Mayweather will beat him 99 out of 100 times, well, maybe this would have been the one performance that might have been that one time that he wins. So I love the way Manny went into the fight. I still say he fought the kind of fight he needed to. He got Broner on defensive. He chose Broner as an opponent for a reason, because of the lack of punches, because of the punch output, because maybe he knew he could put on the aggressive mode and just overwhelm Broner and get him thinking about all the swarm of punches coming at him, so he'll never get off his wheel and throw the punches back. And even if he did, it wouldn't be a sustained level that would continue for the periods of rounds that the fight went, for 12 rounds. So my giving Manny Pacquiao an A+ last night was due to because of the fact he is a 40-year-old fighter. He has the heart of a 28-year-old fighter. He's got the conditioning of a 28-year-old fighter. He's got the speed of a 28-year-old fighter. So, yes, fighters can turn back the clock, but it all starts up here. And I think that Manny Pacquiao proved he did a good job. Now, would he have the same outcome if he fought an Errol Spence and everything else? No, I don't think so. But for what it was and for that fight last night, Manny Pacquiao did an excellent job. And he's even gotten me back into the interest of seeing him fight Floyd Mayweather for the second time.
Well, the one thing that sticks in my head is when Manny Pacquiao said, "I want to thank all the people for coming out to play." But the funny thing, listen, I think the last thing you said, was what I feel. For what the fight was, Manny Pacquiao at 40 years old, and I know everybody kept saying it, and I know Manny Pacquiao said, "I feel great at 40 years old. I don't even think I feel at 40." But the other thing, and I'm just so glad that he got Freddie Roach back in the corner, because Freddie Roach did a great job giving him drinks of water when they needed it and all of that. Because I didn't hear one word come out of Freddie's mouth, and I heard a lot of, I don't know what I was hearing out of the other guy, his chubby buddy there. But what I saw is this: I saw a older Manny Pacquiao, 40 years old to be exact, put on a great performance against a younger fighter. I saw the younger fighter not doing anything to change it up. He became content with his game plan of counterpunching Manny. Manny knew this. He was prepared. He came in great shape. He threw punches with speed, with somewhat accuracy. I don't think he was as accurate as years ago, but he was accurate. And he was able to move and keep Adrien Broner off target. I think the fight was exciting, and I think that it is going to set up a Mayweather rematch. It's the only fight that Manny Pacquiao should even consider. There's no other fight for him. He does not need to fight one of these top welterweights. He just doesn't need to do it. So if he can't sign that fight for this year against Mayweather, then what he needs to do is hang him up and do what he's got to do with the rest of his life. But that's my final thoughts. We have another week coming up of some good fights. So all I can tell you, boys and girls, and childrens of all ages, is make sure you tune in next time. Same bat channel, same bat time. Oh, wait. It's the other way around. Same bat time, same bat channel. And don't forget what Manny says. Make sure you tune in, same bat time, same bat channel. Because that's what he says. Okay? But anyway, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.